No, Larry's not dead. He's back with us after a certain hiatus. And brought on by, some of the problems he's got, I do too with these allergies. It's been one heck of a year. So first of all, welcome back.
Thanks.
And secondly, some very interesting things occurred. But before we get into them, I don't know why this witticism came up, but what do you call an unemployed court jester?
I don't know.
Nobody's fool.
Oh, God.
Never mind.
That's so bad it's good.
I know, isn't it? I ripped that off a reporter in Denver.
I like that.
Anyway, yeah, that is good stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about present-day fascism in the United States. But before we do that, there's a couple of things that did occur, which I'll just put them in and get your reaction because things are getting extremely interesting.
Okay.
Especially with some of the rhetoric that are coming out of any of the candidates, regardless whether they get in or not. They've unleashed a couple of Pandora's boxes. However, I want to run this by you because this may not be a big aha, but now I think I understand in a capsulized form the history of humankind. And it's this. You kind of believe in the phrases that we've ripped from Robinson Jeffers, which is the cold passion for truth hunts in no pack, and Ibsen's line, an enemy of the people, that the majority is never right.
Correct.
All right, and we understand that now. Seemed like overstatements perhaps years ago, but now we realize, no, they're not. And they're truisms that have been told. Ibsen's in the 19th century, and Jeffers in the mid-20th century. But here's where I'm going with this, and this ties into exactly what we've been doing for these many months. And that is, all right, let me just throw it to you. You could disagree.
Okay.
It seems to me incontrovertible that human behavior across millennia does not change. It acts in the same manner toward the same stimuli in the same percentages. So that's why the cold passion for truth hunts in no pack. It's always going to be that way. You're always going to have the herd following, like as Jeffers said, the servile will serve a leader, the dupes will be duped, and the minority will be those who hunt in no pack. Think about it, throughout all time, it's always the same, which is why history repeats itself. Empires do not last much longer than 200 to 300 years. And here we are again. And we think we're different because, we're like smarter and better and we have technology that can kill more than it can cure. Well, that's a big hunk. But, cut through it if you want to.
Well, I think you can look at the current political scene and see the number of dipsticks that are running for the presidency, and realize, and people get really passionate about these people, the dipsticks, I should say, and it just shows me that there's very little critical thinking, and I don't try to set myself up as a great critical thinker, but I mean, if you can't see through some of these candidates and realize that they're basically just puppets whose strings are being pulled by people in that will never be in office but are actually running the government of this country, then you're probably not too bright, or you're not thinking clearly. And that in itself tells me that it's very difficult to vote in. It's impossible actually to vote in good government because the people that run for these offices are always puppets on a string, and people just don't want to look into that. I mean, I think it's because it's just too painful for people to realize that the government is actually run by people that you never see in office, that are not in the White House and are not in Congress. And they don't really want to look at that. They want to get behind some guy because they like his looks, or he says a few things that are clever, and Ronald Reagan's a great example. I mean, he was very charismatic, being a motion picture actor, and people just got behind the guy and just sucked up everything he said, and Really, there wasn't really very much there.
One of the things that I found that was particularly odious was when they were running Ronnie for the office, that the commercials were of sunrises over farmland.
Yeah.
Gigantic-sized American flags.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I wasn't even thinking the way I am now, but I found it distasteful, and it's like, all right, hold on a second, folks. What am I supposed to take from these commercials? Like Ronnie invented the farm? I mean, he's responsible for all this. It's all it is
Mom and apple pie.
Yeah. All you're doing is affixing somebody to all the good feel, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm at this point now where I almost hurl every morning when I watch. Well, look, I didn't do it, so shame on me. But after all these years with VCRs and other things, why don't we record all the promises made and then take a look 4 years later at what didn't happen and the promises made? I mean, come on, man. You don't mean to tell me that out there in the 200 million voters or more in this country, nobody has stopped to take a look around and has said, you know what? This shit ain't working.
Mm-mm.
Every 4 years they come out with the same kazinga, and everybody they just roar with every guttural utterance by these people. And I'm like, folks, don't you get it? You've been here before. And it didn't happen then, and the 4 years before then. So in 2000, I finally realized, for whatever it takes, I'm wasting my time. Coming down and casting a ballot, who gives a crap? They all suck. That's the reason why they're there.
Well, 1992 was the last time I voted in any election for anybody, because it finally became clear to me that neither one of the political parties represented the average ordinary citizen, and that it's all a dog and pony show that gives people the illusion of a choice, and there is no choice.
No.
Corporations run this country. Corporate interest A runs this party, and corporate interest B runs the other.
It is,
and you're voting for Tweedledee and Tweedledummer. And those people don't really have any new and exciting ideas that are going to change things for the better. They're just doing what their masters tell them to do.
One thing that was interesting, by the way, and here we are again, Matt Lauer, the world's greatest show host, asked the penetrating questions. Now, he had on...
You say that with sincerity.
I tell you what, I remember when he came up through the ranks and he got a gig doing a Live at 5, which was your, 5 p.m. news thing in New York.
Yeah.
It was very likable. But that wasn't really heavy stuff at that time, but he did a good job. So, I mean, he's been polished and brought to this particular position. It's arguable that he and Brian Williams, also from NBC, are probably the two personages that most Americans trust to the max. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's unfortunate. So I remember when Lauer had like 4 heads of oil companies on, and he was grilling them, on the Today Show.
Yeah.
Well, he had another one come out this week from ExxonMobil. Mm-hmm. And I had to laugh because, I'm listening to the reasons why gas prices or oil prices get spiked. And I mean, it is so ridiculous. And this winter it was funny because it started off, well, the price is high because the usage is high. And then it was, no, the price is high because nobody's using it. And I mean, the price is high because the groundhog saw his shadow in Puxatawny. It's like, why, how ridiculous can it get? And so what happens is, Lauer lays on this guy, Newt Gingrich is running on this, I promise $2.50 gasoline. First of all, if you believe that, then there's several snowbanks I want to sell as real estate. Don't worry about when the summer comes.
Property in Arizona,
there you go. And the guy said, well, I have to take a look at what he wants to do, because if he's trying to do short-ranging things to bring that price to market, well, is that going to be at the risk of, the long haul? And so Lauer goes, well, why wouldn't you nail that right now? He goes, well, I haven't seen the plan. And I felt like saying, well, one, because there is none, and two, because you're full of crap as well. And this is what we see, and we call this news. And I mean, look, Harry and I said back years ago, it ain't going to stop till we hit $7, and don't you believe it will? We'll do that. Why?
You know, I'm not sure how high it'll go. It might go higher than that. I mean, it's just they just go in increments. I like the way they move the price up, and then they'll move the price back down, and then they move the price up, and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you know.
Yeah, because they'll never return to the price from which they left.
Yeah.
But they'll go so far up that when they back it down, everybody's like gasping in relief.
Well, you know, I'll tell you how old I am. I remember gas prices were like, 20 cents or even less than that a gallon, and they had what they call gas wars, where different stations, different brands would advertise their gas at a lower price,
Well,
but we're never going to see that again.
In 67 and 68, we could actually rummage the sofa for change.
Yeah.
All meet together, pool our money, give it to Billy, and we'd ride all night.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, one of the things we know is that they don't want us going anywhere. So they've made air travel just as absolutely repugnant as possible and expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to take Amtrak. Nobody wants to take Greyhound, and they don't want you taking your car and going anywhere.
Well, another thing, they don't want you going out of the country nowadays. They make it very difficult to get a passport. I mean, they want to go into your blood type and your DNA, just to get a passport nowadays. I know that. I tried to get one. I was going to go on a business trip, and it never did pan out, so I didn't really need the passport, but I couldn't believe what they wanted me to go through to get a passport, because I remember many years ago that it wasn't that difficult, as long as you didn't have some kind of, serious criminal record or something.
Well,
it wasn't that difficult to get a passport, but it is now.
I did something on the State Department and its idea of the new application for passports.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, with the way that it's set up, if it ever does now replace what they have, realistically, they could deny everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And God help you if you had a home birth. Oh, baby. I mean, some of the questions they ask, you'd have to have a memory coming down the canal.
Right.
And
right.
I'm like, all right, guys, why don't you just say you ain't getting one? Let's leave it at that. All right, let's not even go through the sham. But that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with illusion.
They keep tightening up the control grid.
Yeah.
They keep tightening it, especially with travel, which is one of the characteristics of fascism.
Yep.
Travel is very limited.
That's why that phrase we all laugh about is true. Show me your papers.
Exactly.
Because that's the first casualty to totalitarianism.
I don't know what's going on in Florida or really around the country, but I do know that in Texas, that every time I look around, they're putting in another toll road, another toll highway.
That's true.
It is just nothing more than a control grid, and they have these things called I forget the title, but it's a pass, which is
Easy
a barcode.
Pass. Yeah, Easy Pass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a barcode,
yep.
and they're scanning that every time you go through one of these toll booths. And the deal is they know exactly where you are at all times on the grid, and they can stop you and do whatever they want anytime that they want. And that's really what they're working towards, is a total, ultimate control over society and over people's movements, physical movements.
And just making the whole experience too expensive, so you say, heck with it, I'll stay where I am. Really. I mean,
I heard that.
Me who I had my day, but I mean, I don't want to go anywhere now. I mean, I don't even like the idea of going and having somebody feel my junk and all that other stuff. Leave me alone. Go away. What is this
the idea of the intrusiveness and the absolute lack of dignity that you're going to feel, literally, from something of that nature, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I've heard people complaining about going to the airport and seeing like elderly people, even people in wheelchairs, being rousted by these goons. And it's like, yeah, right. I mean, this is the profile, right? A 75, 80-year-old grandma, is going to be a terrorist, and try to take over the plane. I mean, give me a break. It's absurd.
Well, and they found TSA people who were stealing stuff. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't, but I believe it.
Oh no, it happened. I think in LaGuardia or Kennedy.
Yeah.
They have a video of that kind of thing. And I know that there's probably decent people in the TSA. There's probably some retired law enforcement guys or women who are serious. But I tell you, like I said, when I went to Tampa, and I saw them come off a tram, I guess, either at the end of their shift or for lunch, and I looked at them, and it made Police Academy 1 look like foolishness. And then, as I'm walking through the terminal, here's a TSA guy spread across 4 chairs, sleeping. Now, the thing is, they have a right to nap. But if you're wearing a uniform and you're supposed to stand for something, you probably might not want to lay like a goddamn stew bum in a park across. You know what I mean? And he looked like you might
not want to look like a wino.
Yeah. I mean, dude, come on. You got a uniform on. Get your ass up and go sleep somewhere behind closed doors.
I heard that, man.
And I tell you what, this is what's going to happen when we get into the state running everything, because the ones who are first to want to serve the state are cretins like these characters who never were anything in their life, never had any chance to be anything, and this is their big day to be able to push around, obviously, people who are already
the tyranny of little people who've never had any power at all, and they want to take it out on society, and they go way overboard with whatever little authority they're given.
Just remember,
that's what you've got to. These people, the ones that I've seen, were they didn't look, like the creme de la creme. It looked like people that, their last job, they probably got fired from McDonald's because they couldn't remember how to perform their functions.
So,
maybe I'm speaking too well of them. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is what happens. The scum also rises, as Hunter would say, and that's where we're at. And we know we're at that. And now this goes into the whole idea of fascism.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. But for people who need an identity, hold on, I'm doing what you usually do. Choking.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I mean, I know it's not good for people listening.
Oh, no, they share in your pathos. God. But where we're at now, and you had mentioned this before too about the Tea Party and some of its hard edges, who backs them and such. But then, of course, Gingrich has thrown a couple of real zingers out, which basically is about as racist as you can get without him saying, like niggers don't want to work.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. The Republican Party in general is moving so far to the right. I mean, they always were to the right of the Democrats, but they're way far right now. And I think their leading light at this point, and the leading light of fascism in this country is none other than, drumroll please, Ron Paul, congressman from Texas. I think Ron Paul is a crypto-fascist, and that the patriot idiot community really needs to get its head examined for ever getting behind him. And we can thank Alex Jones for trying to pump him up in front of the public. And it also makes me wonder about Alex Jones's loyalties as well.
Well, you're
and
gonna
where
love,
he gets his money.
I've been holding this one back, so you're going to love this.
Okay.
Alex Jones is going to have a show on Fox now.
Oh, my God.
I don't know if he's supposed to be with, or I think he's supposed to do it in partnership with Henry Makow.
Oh, my God.
Can you imagine?
That's scary, Viz. I mean, that's like Father Coughlin type stuff,
Well, the thing is, I just got an email from Big Jim just before we came on. And I said, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to see how this plays out. But the thing is, one, it's a mainstreaming of him. So he has always had a price, and now it's very clear that he has.
Mm-hmm.
Just recently he's been accused of taking money from some Israeli, I don't know, I don't get, or Zionist think tank, I don't care, I don't know. Somebody's been funding him, or some bodies have been funding him. That to me is not a big deal.
I don't think it would be Zionist, unless it was extreme right-wing Zionist. I think his money is coming from the same sources that I think it's coming from the Koch brothers and the quote libertarians spelled Nazis among us. I think that fascism is coming to this country big time, And I think people like him, he'll be one of the cheerleaders. I don't think Ron Paul will be the guy who eventually becomes the fascist, who wins the presidency. But, I mean, he's got a son named Rand who's considerably younger, obviously, and there's other people out there that could take up that mantle. And I think that's what we're headed for.
I don't know why this happened, and we'll find out. There'll be a lot of people opining about what this is about. To me, I like what it says. What was it in Proverbs? It says the end of a matter is better than the beginning. Mm. I'd rather hold back and just watch how this forms because there's a purpose for it, and it's not going to be good. I don't think necessarily that it's going to do anything. I don't know, shall I say that will enhance his position, but what I think it does do, it'll mainstream all the people behind him. And like I said, he's the one that bottlenecked everything and made sure that there was never any kind of organized protest. In all the years that we could have done this, and you heard me say this, I'm sure, I don't know if I mentioned it with you, but I mean, if Occupy Wall Street can get up and run in a short period of time, and he's got his money bombs supposedly and all this other crap, how in the world could he not have created a national network? Because he's the one guy who everybody, including myself, would have got behind, but it became very clear he does not like to play nice with other children. It was all about him. Mm-hmm. And as a result, here we are. But what's happened is there's been no protest. There's been no movement by the Patriots in broad daylight. So you look at the Tea Party and you look at Occupy Wall Street, bang, they go right to the front of the line. And here's the rest of the Patriots who just listen to Alex. And that's what's happened. They've stagnated, listened to Alex, and that's exactly what was meant to happen. That guy, if he ever was serious, and Trudeau thinks he was, has been bought out, and now he's played his tune to the gold coins. Oh yeah, I mean,
I've got an article right here I'd like to read. Sure. that was pretty well done. It's from a blog called The Hill. The guy's name is Brent Badowski. It's kind of a conservative, online magazine, but he has some good comments about Ron Paul. And the title is Ron Paul Charges Fascism, Praises Romney, and Begins to Fade. Ron Paul recently charged that the United States might be headed toward fascism, a ridiculous comment from a gentleman who put his name on newsletters that sometimes cross the line into racism. Paul's fascist charge is incoherent. He correctly worries about the ties between big government and big business, but incoherently supports the very extreme laissez-faire policies that would enable big business to merge with big government by buying it with big money. Equally strange is the Ron Paul affair with Mitt Romney, whom he has recently again praised. Perhaps in the end, Paul is just another laissez-faire champion of big money, crony capitalism, and vulture capitalism. Perhaps this accounts for his praise of Romney, refusal to run against Romney, and the fact that his campaign is actually helping Romney. His policies promote an economy in which anything goes and punishes consumers. He moves from ridiculous overstatements about America heading toward fascism to being the leading champion of extreme laissez-faire policies that promote the very union of big business and big government and underlie his talk about fascism. Paul has always been weak on personal responsibility. He is despicable trash and either did not take personal responsibility to monitor and edit these newspapers before they went public, or to admit that if he did, which he should have. Meanwhile, this bizarre affair of Paul praising Romney raises fundamental questions about what Ron Paul believes and what his campaign is about. His campaign has begun a serious fade and is beginning to look more like a cult than a campaign. Ron Paul could have been a contender, but increasingly he looks like Mitt Romney. Well, I disagree with that he looks like Mitt Romney light. I think his rise in politics is really nothing in this country. I've got some other material. I started doing quite a bit of research on him. I find that Ron Paul used to put out a great many newsletters in the past, and they were very racist and anti-Semitic. And I'll just give you an example. This is from an article called "Angry White Man," which was written in 2008 when Ron Paul ran for president that year. It's written by a man named James Kirchick in the New Republic. And he said, Paul's alliance with neo-Confederates helps explain the views his newsletters have long espoused on race. Take, for instance, a special issue of the Ron Paul Political Report, published in June 1992, dedicated to explaining the Los Angeles riots of that year. Quote, order was only restored in L.A. when it came time for the blacks to pick up their welfare checks 3 days after looting began. Read one typical passage. According to the newsletter, the looting was a natural byproduct of government indulging the black community with, quote, civil rights quotas, mandated hiring preferences set aside for government contracts, gerrymandered voting districts, black bureaucracies, black mayors, black curricula in schools, black TV shows, black TV anchors, and hate crime laws, and public humiliation for anyone who dares question the black agenda. It also denounced the media for believing that America's number one need is an unlimited white checking account for underclass blacks, end quote. He goes on to say Martin Luther King earned special ire from Paul's newsletters, which attacked the civil rights leader frequently, often to justify its opposition to the federal holiday named after him. And, quote, what an infamy, Ronald Reagan approved it. One newsletter complained in 1990, we can thank him for our annual, quote, hate Whitey Day. In the early 1990s, newsletters attacked the X-rated Martin Luther King as a world-class philanderer who beat up his paramours, seduced underage girls and boys, and made a pass at civil rights leader Ralph Abernathy. One newspaper ridiculed black activists who wanted to rename New York City after King, suggesting that, quote, Welfaria, Zooville, Rape Town, Dirtburg, and Lazyopolis were better alternatives.
Yeah, but I like Jesse Jackson's Hamatown. Hamatown, don't let it down. Oh, all right, go ahead.
The same year, King was described as, quote, a calm simp, if not an active party member, and the man who replaced the evil of forced segregation with the evil of forced integration. For those of you out there maybe a little young to remember the term calm simp, that meant somebody was sympathetic to communism. And I remember seeing a billboard in Alabama as I was driving through, this is back in the 60s, and
something I wouldn't do. With Jersey plates, no.
No, we had Texas plates.
There you
but
go.
At any rate, it was the billboard said to the effect, Martin Luther King is a communist, we have proof of it, and then at the bottom it said, be a man, join the Klan, and gave a phone number. And that kind of heads up my next quote from this guy's article. While bashing King, the newsletters had kind words for the former imperial wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, David Duke. In a passage titled The Duke's Victory, a newsletter celebrated Duke's 44% showing in the 1990 Louisiana Senate primary. Duke lost the election, but he scared the blazes out of the establishment. So we can kind of see the direction they're heading there. And one final quote from it. The rhetoric when it came to Jews was little better. The newsletters display an obsession with Israel. No other country is mentioned. More often, the editions I saw are with more vitriol. A 1987 edition of Paul's investment letter called Israel an aggressive national socialist state, and a 1990 newsletter discussed the tens of thousands of well-placed friends of Israel in all countries who are willing to work for the Mossad in their area of expertise. Of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, a newsletter said, whether it was a setup by the Israeli Mossad, as a Jewish friend of mine suspects, I doubt he has too many Jewish friends, or was truly a retaliation by the Islamic fundamentalists matters little. So we kind of see that these newsletters are kind of a bit Nazi-style fascist-leaning there. And it brings me up to another article about Ron Paul. Ron Paul is set to speak to the FBI's anti-government extremist group. It's by Casey G. McCullough in a news magazine called News One. Congressman Ron Paul is scheduled to speak at the Freedom Law Conference on March 16th. The Freedom Law Conference is a gathering of so-called sovereign citizens. The FBI has just issued a warning about sovereign citizens, claiming they're a growing threat to law enforcement. And this is a description of the sovereign citizen movement by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The movement is rooted in racism and anti-Semitism, although most of its sovereigns, many of whom are African American, are unaware of their beliefs' origins. In the early 1980s, the sovereign citizens movement mostly attracted white supremacists and anti-Semites, mainly because sovereign theories originated in groups that saw Jews as working behind the scenes to manipulate financial institutions and to control the government. Most early sovereigns and some of those who are still on the scene believed that being white was a prerequisite to becoming a sovereign citizen. They argued that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which guarantees citizenship to African Americans and everyone else born on U.S. soil, also made black Americans permanently subject to federal and state governments unlike themselves. Several members of the sovereign citizen movement have been involved in violence and terrorism, including Terry Nichols, Timothy McVeigh's partner in the Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168 people, including 19 young children. In 2010, 2 sovereign citizens murdered 2 police officers in a routine traffic stop. And Joseph Stack, who flew a plane into the IRS building in Austin, Texas, in 2010, was also a sovereign citizen. Paul has long courted anti-government, militia, and New World Order conspiracy groups. In his newsletter, he wrote the 10 militia commandments in which he gave advice to militia groups. Keep the group size down. Keep quiet, and you're harder to find. Leave no clues. Avoid the phone as much as possible, and don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have a war, let it begin here. Well, that's a pretty loving statement there.
Oh, yeah.
Then we've got some of the friends of Ron Paul and his supporters in his past. It's another article in News One. It's written by Casey G. McCullough. Ron Paul has a lot of racist supporters, including white supremacist website Stormfront, conspiracy theorist group, the John Birch Society, and neo-Confederates who believe that the South was right during the Civil War. And the support is mutual. While Paul would like you to believe that his connection to racism ended with his newsletters, he's continued to address his group well into the 21st century. Take a look at some of Ron Paul's top racist supporters. Willis Carto. Willis Carto is a Holocaust denier, Hitler admirer, and a white supremacist. A former campaigner for segregationist candidate George Wallace, Carto founded the National Alliance with William Pierce, the author of the Turner Diaries, which is credited with inspiring Timothy McVeigh. Carto founded the Populist Party in 1984 and ran David Duke as a presidential candidate. The New York Times writes that Paul used a subscription list to a white supremacist publication of Carto's to solicit donations. Well, that's a great friend to have there. Another one of his friends, Don Black, is a former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, a current member of the American Nazi Party, and the owner and operator of the white supremacist site Stormfront. Black regularly organizes money bombs for Ron and Rand Paul, and has even taken a picture with Ron Paul, and have that picture, who refused to return donations from Black and Stormfront, even with the political tradition of not accepting donations from people who seem unfit. Black told the New York Times that it was Paul's newsletter that inspired him to be a supporter, and, quote, that was a big part of his constituency, the paleo-conservatives who think there are race problems in this country. And David Duke. David Duke is a former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan and candidate for governor of Louisiana. Duke is also a New World Order conspiracy theorist who believes that Jews control the Federal Reserve. On his website, Duke proudly boasts about the endorsement and kind words that Paul gave him in his newsletters, and in turn endorses Ron Paul for president. James von Brunn. James von Brunn was a white supremacist and anti-Semite who opened fire at the Holocaust Museum, killing an African-American security guard. Von Brunn was an avid Paul supporter who posted a message on the Ron Paul Yahoo group saying, Hitler's worst mistake, he didn't gas the Jews. I guess he hadn't been reading history or didn't believe what he read. And then Bill White. Bill White is a neo-Nazi who's a former member of the neo-Nazi group, the National Socialist Movement, and founder of his own Nazi group, the National Socialist Workers Movement. He has called for the lynching of the Jena 6 and the assassination of NAACP leaders. White previously campaigned for Pat Buchanan of the Reform Party. This year, White was convicted of threatening a juror, but then freed by a judge who called the threats free speech. White is a former Ron Paul supporter who became disenfranchised with Paul when a Paul spokesman called white supremacy a small ideology. Here's what White wrote about Paul on a popular white supremacist website. I've kept quiet about the Ron Paul campaign for a while because I didn't see any need to say anything that would cause any trouble. However, reading the latest release from his campaign spokesman, I'm compelled to tell the truth about Ron Paul's extensive involvement in white nationalism. Both Congressman Paul and his aides regularly meet with members of the Stormfront set, American Renaissance, the Institute for Historical Review, which is Willis Carto's group, and others at the Terra Thai restaurant in Arlington, Virginia, usually on Wednesdays. This is part of a dinner that was originally organized by Pat Buchanan, Sam Francis, and Joe Sobrand, and has been mostly taken over by the Council of Conservative Citizens. I've attended these meetings, seen Paul and his aides there, and have been invited to his offices in Washington to discuss policy. Paul is a white nationalist of the Stormfront type who has always kept his racial views and his views about world Judaism quiet because of his political position. I don't know that it's necessarily good for Paul to expose this. However, he really is someone with extensive ties to white nationalism, and for him to deny that in the belief he would be more respectable by denying it is outrageous. And I hate seeing people in the press who denounce racialism merely because they think it's not fashionable. That was Bill White, commander of the American National Socialist Workers Party. And last but not least, we have Jules Manson. Jules Manson was a failed politician from Carson, California.
Great name, though.
Yeah. Manson was also a big Paul supporter who would write, "I may be an atheist, but Ron Paul is my God." On Paul's website, Manson would also write, "Assassinate that N-word and his family of monkeys of President Barack Obama." Now, that's a loving group of folks that he is associated with. And I think it just kind of shows you the direction that Ron Paul is going, but it's interesting how he kind of keeps a lot of that under wraps. And here's one from News One article from 3rd of January 2012 by Kristen Rawls. News One reports that Paul has always courted a white supremacist base. He even appeared on Radio Free America, the brainchild of neo-Nazi Willis Carto in 2001. Paul and his aides regularly meet with members of the white supremacist Stormfront set, American Renaissance, the Institute for Historical Reviews, and others in Arlington, Virginia, usually on Wednesdays. This is part of a dinner that was. That's all the quote from Black. I believe it was Black, one of the Nazis. Nazi paranoia has reached epic proportions among influential members of the GOP over the last few years. So you'd think there'd be a quick shutdown, actual Nazi sympathizing, when it emerges within their ranks. But they're doing quite the opposite. Rather than speaking out about Ron Paul's extremism, they've mostly been criticizing him as a moderate because he's against imperialistic war policies. Not one Republican candidate has mentioned this photograph circulated via social media by an Occupy protest group last week. It shows Paul posing with Don Black, a former American Nazi Party member turned KKK Grand Wizard and owner of the white supremacist Stormfront. And it's not just a matter of unfortunate photo ops. First, there are the racist newsletters, which we've talked about. Paul launched 3 of them during the mid to late 80s, one each on investment, survivalism, and politics. He would act as their publisher well into the 1990s. Recent scrutiny in the newsletters reveals all sort of shocking views that Paul has since renounced. Things like this in the 1992 LA riots, and it goes on with what I've already talked about. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, the guy over and over again shows him. It was Bill White who mentioned the dinners that they have where he meets with Stormfront and American Renaissance. But it's just amazing to me that all this is in his background, and yet we don't hear very much about it on mainstream media. And then we got says here, to date, Newt Gingrich is the only GOP presidential contender to make headlines for condemning Paul's ugliest connections. The others continue to paint him as the moderate, not the extremist GOP candidate in the race. Now, instead of telling people about his long and storied relationship with white supremacy, they criticize him for not being conservative enough. His connections to white nationalism are well established and easy to prove. But for many on the right, Obama is still the Nazi and Paul the moderate. It all begs the question, what has happened to political discourse in the United States? At least one of 2 major parties in this country is controlled by people who barely recognize that one of their major candidates is, in fact, a Nazi, or at least a Nazi sympathizer. They're so busy drawing Hitler mustaches on images of Obama that they don't notice the real danger within their own ranks. And Rawls normally writes for the Christian Science Monitor.
May I stop you there?
Sure.
Why can I do that? Because it's my show. You see, in the time you've been away, you've lost your edge. You disappoint me.
Oh, man.
But just sit back now. Just sit back from what you've read.
Yeah.
Think about what I just told you is going to happen with Jones and Henry Maycow.
Right.
Also, Gingrich has made another very interesting comment about how you damn Americans, you could be more fully employed if you train for the jobs that are open. And that, did you hear this?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah.
And he says, well, all Americans should go back for training.
Yeah.
What am I, a SEAL?
Training for what? For what job?
But you see, that's the point.
There are no jobs there, dude.
Well, the thing
That's
is...
like it's $2.50 a gallon gas. When's this going to happen?
I don't know about
you.
I don't know about you, but I'm training for the wonderful world of medical coding and billing. That used to be the Drivers Institute of the 70s.
Well, I really have always kind of wanted to be a truck driver, and I could train at one of those institutes, and I wear a baseball cap anyway, and I just I just always wanted to be a terrible Texas trucker.
Well, we used to make fall commercials about it's like, now I can buy sandwiches I used to stale. No, but the thing is, it's like, great. Well, tell us where the job sectors are that we should be training for. But the whole thing was, it was so broad. But what he got out of his mouth, and of course, Gingrich should be wearing Imperial Wizard outfit also.
Yeah.
All right. But what he said was, we all have to go, all Americans should go back for training. Now, you may call this a stretch, but just stay with me on this.
Sure.
One of the things I used to do battle with the librarians at St. Leo is this thing, lifelong learning. It's so warm and fuzzy and sensitive. Lifelong learning. And I'm like, okay, that sounds great, and that's what we all should pursue by ourselves. As Voltaire said, it is good for man to cultivate his gardens, and I believe that. You keep it working or you lose it, all right?
Yeah.
Now, but when it is enforced and mandatory, it becomes re-indoctrination. And that's why all you people who are so worried that the Internet's going to go away, don't you worry about it, folks, because it's going to be there for you, because you're going to have to take your citizenship tests and make sure you're fit to go back into society every so often so that you're a good citizen for the Vaterland. You think I'm kidding?
No,
not at all. So that's what, but this stuff is coming out now, and I'm freaking because it's like these little bits that get out that sound good on the surface, but like everything else, Larry, it's all about deception. Isn't life all about deception?
It's just like we were talking about Ron Paul. I mean, he comes on like the kindly grandfather who believes in the Constitution and good old American values, when in reality the guy's a hardcore racist and a fascist. And this whole libertarian thing is nothing more than a disguise for big government, big business being combined together in a fascist, America. That's what it's all about.
No.
This laissez-faire crap where they get rid of all government regulation, and big business runs the country. And, big business and government merge.
They've been taking his bony ass and running up a flagpole it gets to the point now. There was a guy by the name of Krajewski who, I don't know if, this guy actually was famous nationally. He was a Sea Caucus pig farmer who ran for president, like always. And he always got a decent amount of the vote. But the point is clear. It was a mockery in a certain sense. They run Paul all the time. And for what purpose? It can't be because they really seriously think, or his followers do, that he can win. But here's where we're going with this. I think you're starting to see, and really now it's getting very, very interesting. If we could put this on a whiteboard and use the old stuff we learned in logic and stuff in math about intersecting subsects and all this other stuff, you're starting to see a lot of cross-pollination, if you will, between groups and ideologies. Now, of all that you've mentioned, let's not forget this, because I feel that these characters are the worst if they get let loose on society. And that's the soccer moms and the yuppie dads who are in the Tea Party who buy a bit of Ron Paul. But you see, they won't take him into Alex Jones land. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I was in
They're moving incrementally, Biz. This is what it's all about. Ron Paul's a stalking horse. Eventually, they're going to come up with somebody who's totally acceptable to that crowd you're talking about.
Okay.
They've got to. They have to bridge it. They have They started off with Ron Paul, you know, and now he's being more and more accepted in the Republican community, and they're going to move it forward until they come up with a young, dynamic guy who can get up and speak and win the hearts and minds of the Republican Party, and eventually, I guess, will become president of the United States. But they're moving incrementally. That's the way I see it. And it's all moving toward fascism. Fascism's already here. It's just that it's going to get a lot stricter, and they're going to clamp down a lot harder on civil liberties, or what's left of civil liberties.
All right, now, countenance this, if you will. Think about this, because it will reach the same end, but it may go by different means. And, of course, with the Hegelian dialectic and all that jazz, yeah, we got that. We understand that, all right? And as we said before, when you take a look at crypto left and crypto right, they meet in the middle of fascism.
They sure do.
It's just different, you know, take your Bolshevik end or take your Nazi end. They all wind up in the same spot. What I think
they all force you into a position we've talked about before, where you wind up living in a hovel with very little to eat, and you're afraid that somebody may come by in the middle of the night and take you away to a concentration camp.
But not if you're a good citizen.
That's
right, man.
That's right.
What
man.
about this though? I'll add a scenario for you. As we speak right now, Obama is going to be brought in for a second term, and then it's going to come unglued. No one's going to be happy. They run Romney up the flagpole. No one's going to really be happy about them. There might be some talk about fractionalization. Maybe they'll try to go with a third-party candidate. Maybe they won't. But honestly, what will happen is all the little nimrods out there who don't know where to go, they're going to go for the winner. This goes back to the whole herd mentality and the manipulation of the populace for the vote. That's another whole story. But what I'm thinking, what they're doing right now is moving everybody who's not like completely happy, maybe doesn't have an R on their voting card, maybe doesn't have a D on their voting card. They're all going to vote for Obama. He looks like he's going to go in. Have you ever seen Obama look more like, as you know, El Negro Duce? Or Duce Negro. Come on. The guy sits there with his uplifted chin. But I'll say this. He's looking...
He does strike that posture. I think he studied Mussolini. I really do. Because he strikes that posture like Mussolini. I don't get it, man. It's weird.
He's probably Italian. Oh, by the way, do you know one of the greatest trivia questions there was in baseball lore?
No.
You're supposed to name like the 4 Italian Americans who won the home run championship.
Okay, I guess one would have to be Joe DiMaggio. I don't know the other guy.
And it was Jim Gentile in those days and Rocky Colavito. This goes back a long way.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know Colavito ever won one, but I remember Jim Gentile.
Gentile, which probably in Italian is Gentile, you know?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But the one nobody ever got was Roy Campanella.
Ah, yeah, Roy Campanella,
for
that's
obvious reasons.
His dad was black, and I guess his dad was... No, his dad was white. His mom was black. I don't know,
but one of them could hit.
Doesn't matter.
One of them could hit.
Yeah.
he got some good genes out of them.
Yeah.
But
he was a great player. He really was.
But what I see happening here is now they're making Obama look more solid. Well, if you listen to Mitt Romney, if he doesn't look like he's going to hyperventilate from being an absolute jerk. God, I can't. I'm looking at him going, where's the presidential pause? You know what I mean? The slowness of speech, but, blah, blah. He's just sitting there. Oh, man, it's horrible. Anyway, Obama gets back in. No doubt about it. Now, here's where I'm going to go with it. All those who are just absolutely frothing at the mouth at Obama for being Democrat or for being black comes back in. Now, is there a greater possibility of deeper division if, A, Obama returns for 4 years, or 2, the Republicans take over? I would say it's the first.
Definitely. I think that'll fire them up. That'll fire up the right wing even more in this country.
Well, then consider
and they're going to recruit a lot of people. I'm amazed at the level of hatred toward it. I thought they really hated Bill Clinton until I saw Obama. My God, they hate the guy.
But now check out this other manipulation that's taken place. Let me give you a multiple choice. In times of war or on the brink of war, do we go incumbent or new president?
Well, on the brink of war, we'd stay with the president we've got because you don't want to change horses in the middle of the stream.
Exactly.
Or horses' asses in the middle of the stream, whichever comes first.
My point is clear. I mean, that is what's been burned indelibly, especially on the minds of ourselves from that certain cohort. So that
I think this whole thing with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz is going to get pumped up quite a bit more in the coming months.
And what would the purpose be?
Well, it would be to basically to get Obama reelected, I would think.
All right, let me throw you a second one now, because these are two very important elements.
Plus to raise the price of oil, which is always good for the oil companies.
Well, all right, the second thing is, just tell me as you have picked it up from the media, no matter how much you listen or watch or read, we can't help but absorb information from the mainstream.
Well, I watch the media, I watch Fox to get my laughs about the Republicans, and I watch MSNBC to get my laughs about the Democrats.
All right. But
I rarely watch either one of them unless it's maybe, because I can't stomach it for very long.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
So, I mean, that many lies within the space of a few minutes,
All right, so now on this March 10th, what I'm going to ask you now, from the snapshot that you have of the economy, is it A, better, or B, worse?
I think it's better.
All right, now what does that do to an incumbent president?
That makes him go right up in the polls.
And that's why no matter what happens, and nothing will happen, by the way, the economy will not falter, and we will not go to war. Obama will come back in because those things are still out there, and those are big motivators for people to vote for the incumbent. That's what we're going to get. Now, after he's in, all bets are off.
Oh, once he's in, I think he's just going to create. There's just going to be more hatred and ire toward him created, and at some point, it's just going to become a whirlwind, and you're going to have a right-wing candidate. I mean, a really far-right candidate brought in by the Republicans in the next election in 2016.
Well, that's you'd be very optimistic if there is a 2016. But of course, this he's nothing but a construct of the Imagineers who run this country, who don't run for office.
Yeah.
So
they're playing us. I mean, it's the dog and pony show.
Right.
They're manipulating the masses, just like they did in Germany. Hitler was a puppet. He had certain ideas of his own, which created problems for him in the end, which probably got him killed in the end. But he mainly had to listen to certain very powerful interests in particular, and not just in Germany, but also in the United States and Britain and France.
Well,
so I mean, that's really what it's all about. It's just the dog and pony show for the masses to get them pumped up for where they want to go, and eventually they want full-blown fascism in this country, which will lead to full-blown feudalism, which is the end game. It's feudalism, and that's what it's going to lead to.
History repeats itself. We're not going to go through all that stuff. We understand that it does, and as I said at the outset, I think there's a reason for it beyond what we've heard from Spengler or whoever. And because to me, again, it doesn't change. Human behavior is the same. It's been like that forever, and it will continue like that forever. There's nothing going to break loose. It's always been the same. So,
I'm thinking that I thought for a long time that Obama would preside over a third world war. I think it may be that Obama will, since he'll be in his second term and he can't get reelected, he's going to preside over it, just kind of sit back and let that Third World War develop. And I think that maybe the Third World War could come between 2016 and 2020. I mean, that's just a speculation on my part. But I know there has to be a Third World War to bring about world government and to bring about the kingdom of the Antichrist.
Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind. And like I said, you get painted as a dominionist if you say you're a Christian and you think there'll be a Third World War because of guys like Hagee. But, of course, like everything that happens in the mainstream media, the lunatic fringe of any particular group, whether it's religious or otherwise, always gets put out there as the standard bearer for the whole group. Mm-hmm. Now, Hagee and you and we have nothing in common with that guy except, we hate each other. But we are not dominionists. We know that
I don't hate Hagee. I just think Hagee is deluded, I think Hagee is being used as, it's hard for me to hate on practically anybody anymore, because I see so often that people are caught up in certain circumstances. They don't even understand what they're doing. And I think Hagee's one of those people.
Well,
I think he really believes a lot of the crap he spouts off.
Well, I'll tell you what.
And that's scary.
Yeah, it is. But I'll say this also. You got to want to be fooled.
Yeah, that's
all
true.
Right? And I'm sorry, but that guy, I mean, I don't know what happened to
He's
Scripture.
deluded. I mean, he's gone off the deep end.
How many people in churches now, and let's call them Bible-believing churches, whatever that means, aren't believing that, one, Israel is something special and that, we're not going to go through that.
Yeah.
All right? And two, that somehow, some way, Christ said, by all means, help me out, shed blood for the advancement of my kingdom.
That's the part that really gets me upset. It's like, did you read the New Testament? Did you read did you read what Christ did? Did you read about his actions and the things that he said? He never, ever told anybody to do violence to anyone.
No.
In fact, he rebuked Paul, or not Paul, but Peter for picking up a sword and cutting off the ear of a Roman soldier. He rebuked him for that.
But what's so
knowing that he was going to be taken and crucified. And he told him, this is wrong. You don't understand what I'm trying to tell you. And all the time that he was speaking, it used to amaze me as I understood the story of Jesus. It amazed me how absolutely numbskulled the apostles were, because he would try to tell them something so often, and they would just totally not get it. They were trying to follow him, and in all honesty, I think they were doing their best, but they just didn't understand. And I think that's what's happening with people in churches now.
Well,
people are getting pumped up over this thing. Well, we've got to go get those Muslims. They're evil, and this is the same kind of crap that they started the first group of crusades over.
But we have the advantage above the disciples. One, because you're right. But two, I think they realized after he left what the deal was.
Exactly.
And that's where they got caught up to speed. At the time, no. Afterwards, I guess we can expect. They were imbued with a certain amount of understanding. I'm not going to say they didn't have the Holy Spirit at that time. I believe they did. But then they got it. They got it after he left.
Right.
Now, we are the recipients of all that history, and so we don't have to go through the period where they were scratching their heads.
Right.
However, we're in some other kind of situation where it's like, I think of McLean's song, and the last few strains of the song, they're not listening still. Perhaps they never will.
Exactly.
And I'm looking at this, and it is so chillingly applicable, and I'm looking at Christians in their eyes going, where in the world did you get this from? Invariably what it is they don't read the Word. They just watch televangelists and they listen to their preacher, and that's the way it is. So, Well,
it's so much easier to listen to some guy who's a charismatic speaker, and he goes through all this. I was raised in that tradition. I was raised in both Southern Baptist and Assemblies of God churches, and I've been around that kind of thing all the time when I was a kid growing up. And these guys are dramatists. They get up and they put on a show for the people.
I know.
And they bump the Bible and they sweat and they go through all these gyrations, and it's pretty heavy stuff. It's like Brother Love's Traveling Salvation Show.
You got to believe in someone, so you might as well believe in me. Here comes that peach tree shaking El Dorado driving Brother Love.
Church of the Cadillac and Discount House of Religion.
What I like better is, I want a Honda. Oh my shin, oh my knee, I want a Honda. That'll get you through any Pentecostal service.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but look, come on, man. It's become a freak show. Call it what it is.
Yeah.
What makes it so right? Nothing except the thing is like, what does it say in Scripture? That's all. If you want to throw the Bible out the window, great. You got nothing. That's fine with me. But I'll tell you what, I'll stand on that. That's one thing I'm not going to have to make excuses for when I stand before them.
Well, these are the same people in evangelical Protestant churches, the same people who will criticize Roman Catholicism for having all these traditions that they believe in and not really following the Scriptures. So they turn around and they have all these traditions that they follow, and they don't follow the Scriptures. Sola Scriptura was one of the big Protestant points, against the Roman Catholic Church. You know, the idea we're only going to use the Scriptures, sola scriptura. And then they turn right back around, and now it's just like you say, they have a tradition of, well, this is good Christian Americanism. You know, we're going to do this, and we're going to follow this guy. Oh, gosh, we've all got to vote Republican. You know,
I know.
It's insane, man. I mean, they are the biggest portion of the Republican vote in this country. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's large. It's probably like 40% of the Republican vote in this country. They depend upon evangelical Christians. And that's scary.
Well, going back to one of the things I said, before we got in this vein, and that's fine. But the thing is that there's a brown shirt group of people out there that are young and dumb, who I think that are pretty much looking for a place to do something and be something. I don't know what.
They want action. They want action. They want to be brought into
to a situation
that, you know, and violence appeals to people like that.
Well,
you know, give them somebody to hate. Give them an object to hate. That's what Hitler understood, and he gave people an object to hate. The Jews, the communists, the liberals, you know.
But here's the point, and this is what I'm trying to figure out how it's the same here. If you now, and it may not be, there may be a little bit of a change of the plan. Now, you had talked before about war perhaps in 2018 or 2020, and people going, oh, are you kidding me? They're talking about it right now. Look, it's all saber-rattling. This crap goes on all the time. Forget it. It's not going to happen right now.
Believe me, I have no idea when it's going to occur. The only thing I'm sure of is it will occur.
But I've said to you, if you want to take a look back, we go 1909, financial panic, 1918, our entry in World War I. And I'm going through the fast version here. Okay,
yes.
1932, depression is firm. Forget the stock market crash in 29.
Well, actually, 29, I guess, is when it crashed, but...
The depression gets everybody in 32.
Yeah.
9 years later,
yeah, it was
41.
worldwide in 32.
Right, in 41...
It put Hitler into office.
Right.
It's more than anything else, the economic depression that had gripped Germany, and Germany was in worse shape than the United States, considerably worse. And that helped Hitler immensely to get into office.
All right, so looking at just from a U.S. perspective, though, I would say, again, 32 to 41, 9-year span.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Now, is 08 the big collapse? I don't think so. But if it were, it would be 2017. If that collapse takes place in 13 or 14, which I think will happen, and if we want to go by the formula, and it doesn't have to hold,
I think they've got to wait until after the election's over to really bring the hammer down,
right.
You know?
You're going to be a year or two into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
I mean, that's just speculation on my part, but that's what I think.
Well, it's all speculation, but the thing is, but I don't mind doing this in the sense, I mean, these guys like Gerald Salenti and stuff, they come out with like 20,000 things that they say, and none of it comes true. One happens because we all could probably get that, and all of a sudden he becomes like a hero on Rents and his other places. Now, let me say this. I've asked people who are, we email around about finances, and I said, look, and I'll say the same thing to you, and I don't think this is a bad series of, questions to more or less divine what's going on. One, do we think world bankers are good people?
Absolutely not.
Okay, boom, we go to question 2. Do we think that this whole economic, whatever it is, happened by accident?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It was all intentional.
2. There you go, 2.
It was a big money grab.
All right, here's number 3. If that is the case, if you answered like you did in 1 and 2, here's the next thing. Do you think we can ever go back to the way things were?
Absolutely not.
All right, and number 4, where would we be headed then?
Fascism and eventually feudalism.
And to a certain kind of catastrophic event financially. Because the one thing that'll get everybody's attention is if something goes into the toilet like it did in 32. And that's why I'm saying, I can't see we're not going back to the way things, it's not going to happen. So if it isn't going to happen, and if it wasn't by accident, we don't really think world bankers are great guys, then where do you think we're headed, man? I mean, come on, if it smells like it and it walks like it, it probably quacks like it.
Well, I mean, you don't have to be any kind of economist or any kind of a genius in predicting the future to realize that when they put, I don't even know what the actual figure is, they can't put a figure on it, but the bailout which took place in 07, 08, it amounts to trillions I think the last figure I heard was something like $14 trillion.
Yeah, 15, 14, 15. That's right.
My God, man. The government is taking that much money and putting it into the hands of private enterprise, into the hands of these companies, these financial capitalists who ripped off the American public, and their incompetence and their greed is rewarded with trillions of dollars, and people don't think this country's going down?
Their incompetence.
You gotta be an idiot.
Their incompetence is that of a fox.
Yeah.
Now, here's what I'm going to suggest is going on. I know this flies in the face of the Austrian School of Economics and the London School, and the Freak Lemon School of Economics. Screw all that crap.
Yeah. Well,
All right, well, let me run this by you. You remember when you first began to ride a two-wheeler?
Yeah.
Okay. Dad got you in a two-wheeler. You felt that you were probably like 17 stories above the world, right?
Yeah.
Looking down, oh my God, my feet can't touch the ground. All right. And Dad said, okay, Larry, pedal.
Yeah.
And he pedaled, and then he was with you. I'm with you, Larry. I'm with you, Larry. I'm with you, Larry. And all of a sudden, you're pedaling down a roadway, and you're not hearing, I'm with you, Larry. Why? Because your father is 2 blocks back.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh my God, I'm doing this on my own. And then what happened? Wah, 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 bang, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But this is what we all went through it. Dad, you suck.
Yeah. Every kid goes through that one.
Yeah, you come back and you go, Dad, look at the road rash on my knees. But anyway, what I'm saying is it's the same thing now. I am completely fine with the idea that we are now, without the bankers pushing us, that the whole economy and everything we do is running because, well, it just does run. But I'm telling you, we could wake up tomorrow morning and a switch could have been flipped, and you wake up to the morning news and it's like, guess what happened, folks? You don't have shit anymore.
Well, how do you get people out of a depression? The last time it was done was with the Roosevelt administration and other administrations, actually through Hitler's administration.
Well,
the way you get people out of a depression is to build a war machine.
I was
even bigger war machine than you already have.
Well, I was thinking
about put people back to work as soldiers, sailors, etc.
I was trying to make a cheap remark, bro.
Okay.
How do you get out of depression? Rescind prohibition. Now think about that.
Yeah, that's true too.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no. So, all right, and let's fast forward now, and maybe we can sew it up to this edition. All right. Here's what I'm asking you, and maybe if you can't answer it now, and you don't necessarily have to, maybe it's something we all have to go back, and we all can, listeners and everything. Hitler divided, but he somehow got everybody together, at least the parties he wanted to. Mm-hmm. That's the interesting thing. Mm-hmm. A fractionalized country cannot necessarily fight, a supposed outward threat. So you have to galvanize them after they get kind of like fractionalized. And all I'm wondering about is, and I'm thinking about the Peikoff's book. It's like, did they finally find the fractions? But they got the parties they wanted by appealing to a certain thing, and they drew that as the strength of the country, which obviously it was. Well,
I think there's going to have to be, in my opinion, there's going to have to be a false flag event, a terrorist-style event, a la 2001, 9/11. There will have to be an event of that nature which will make 9/11 look small. And I think that's going to happen at some point. Because I remember around the time of 9/11 how the country did seem to come together and was galvanized, against a common enemy, at least what we thought was a common enemy, until people, or at least people like us, began to look around and think, hey, I think we got faked out. I think this was a setup. I think it's an inside job. And I think we're going to have there's going to be an event of that nature, which will be considerably worse than 9/11. And I don't wish that. I hope I'm wrong, but I can't see any other way that they could galvanize the population the way that they want. And this will lead to all-out war. I mean, it won't just be, like going into Afghanistan and eventually into Iraq. It's going to be full scale, all the way. And
all right,
that's just the way I see it.
All right, and lastly, just for the purposes of this audio, if we look back, all right, I don't know that you can really compare Germany in World War I to Germany in World War II. I really don't know if you can do that. I don't think, the Nazi influences are really there then. There was always nationalism, but, who the heck isn't nationalistic? You know what I mean? What the Brits weren't? What, are you kidding me? So the thing is that whatever happened in World War I don't think you can carry that over. Much is made about the reparations that Germany was supposed to pay, and the severity of that kind of chastisement supposedly fed what was part of the whole engine for World War II.
It was one of the main factors that brought Hitler to power.
Peikoff made the good point that countries that were fascist necessarily in World War I did not become that in World War II. That is true. Let's take an example. Who were the Axis powers at that time? Austria.
It was Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire.
Right, but Austria-Hungary did not go fascist in World War II. That's interesting. They were losers at the table. They did not go fascist in World War II.
Well, Austria got taken over by the Nazis. They basically capitulated and the Nazis took over. There was a period of struggle where the Nazis were trying to take over Austria, and they actually assassinated one of the Austrian premiers. It was a big scandal, and that actually put a bit of enmity between Mussolini and Hitler, because Mussolini's wife was very good friends with the Austrian chancellor's wife. He was actually a right-winger, but not a full-blown fascist, not a Nazi-style fascist like Hitler.
But also, you raised the point. Italy was a winner in World War II when fascists in World War I, they were not Axis.
Yeah,
but they were
Italy
fascists in World War II.
Was part of the Allies in World War I.
Yeah,
and so was Japan.
Well, what was interesting about all that stuff, too, if you go back and take a look, I think it's correct. I think if Quigley gave us anything really truthful, that World War I was basically a war of imperialism where every country went out and grabbed whatever it could.
I think so, yeah.
And what's interesting,
I'd say more than any other factor, that was it.
Well, if you look on maps, almost to the present time, you will see all these little islands that probably don't mean anything to anybody in the Mediterranean, and they belong to Italy. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they grabbed at that time, if you know what I mean. So, but that was an acquisition, and if anything, that probably set the stage for World War II, in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the point, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the Reich gets dashed, Germany gets put into an ash pile, but not really for that long if you think about it. And, of course, here they are again. Now, what happens to the United States if we are to pretty much incur the same fate as the Third Reich? Does it happen the same way, or do the divisions in this country, after we are pretty much eviscerated, do they take over now and make sure that we can never rise up again? I
think the final triumph of fascism, final triumph of the beast system will emanate from Europe, but the United States is going to be eliminated as a world power. And I think that's what the way things are headed.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be pitted against the Russians and the Chinese.
We have no argument there. We've talked about that whole thing. I think what Brzezinski told us, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, from the grand chessboard is certainly going to take hold. Can you imagine what is going to happen to Americans, especially those who really don't know a whole lot and are idiots and just think that we've always done the right thing and we can never be beaten? Can you imagine what it would be like if you took a snapshot of the day after that movie in the 70s with Jason Robards? Can you imagine looking at Americans who just can't believe they just got singed? Can you imagine? You talk about the apocalypse of zombies.
It's going to be an absolute horror show. I mean, not just from a standpoint of people, people being killed and, the bloodshed and destruction of property, but also the abject, depressing feeling of helplessness that people are going to go through, people who really don't get it, have never understood what the United States really is all about and who really runs this country. These are the kind of people that buy into the presidential elections and buy into all the rhetoric about the founding fathers and how wonderful America really is. and just don't really get it about. They don't understand that they've been chumped, that they've been played, and it's going to be like a real. They're not going to know what to do, and it's going to be a horror show of extreme proportions.
If you don't
I don't know how much of America will be left as far as like. I don't know if we're going to get nuked. I would assume we'll get nuked to some extent.
Well, no one gives a crap about Texas. Don't worry about that. I mean, actually, let's put it this way. Okay. Jeopardy question. The answer is Texas. The question is, what state looks like it already got nuked?
Oh, man.
Look, I've been there, man.
I was thinking that was New Jersey, but, maybe.
Oh, no. Answer?
I've been there. I've been to New Jersey.
Answer, world's largest zoo.
I'm glad I'm not there now.
All right, look, I'll cut to the quick.
Sure.
If they put a fence around Jersey, you will have the world's largest zoo. Leave it there. I got out, but you never really do get out.
Yeah.
All right, we can bring it to an end here if you don't mind.
Sure.
But there's some other interesting things that are happening, and you will have encountered them before we come back on again. But I'm going to let you have last shot. Here's what I'm going to throw out to you. And hang with me, after we say goodbye, because there's some things I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
That nobody else can listen to. Okay?
Okay.
But no matter how much you pay attention, and, obviously we can't pay a lot of attention if we want to keep our sanity. But I'm just going to ask you to listen to certain little blurbs that are being popped out by the candidates. Like this bit about Gingrich's, well, we all have to go back for training. I'm just asking you to be a little aware of it because those things float to the surface like balloons. And I'm telling you, something is being done in a social manipulation right now, regardless who's president. Stuff's being put out there on the table that is not going to go away. And I'm going to just throw it over to you, your thoughts about that and what we're seeing during this presidential fiasco.
Well, I think we're seeing the Republican Party in the last couple of years going even farther to the right. The Republican Party has a long history of being involved with fascism and with the Nazis. We've been through a lot of that during the course of these broadcasts. I've, brought up that history. But I think that you're going to see fewer and fewer what I would call decent, responsible conservatives, which the Republican Party used to have a fair number of. I don't believe that faction of the Republican Party will really exist to any great extent in the future. I think you're seeing them going farther and farther to the right, and I think that after Obama gets elected the second time, which I think that's going to happen, I think the Republican Party will take that next election, and then I think you're going to see revealed a full-blown fascist movement in this country. And, yes, I mean, it'll be a planned economy, and they'll put people to work wherever they want people to work, which will probably be in war industry. I mean, I think anybody who is looking to buy stock in, some of the major defense contractors, because I think in a few years they're really going to make a whole lot of money. And I think that's part of the game plan. And I think we're in the planning stages to go into a third world war. And I mean, just this last week we had Gingrich making some very bellicose statements about Iran and how we need to get after Iran and rattling the saber at them. And I mean, this just continues. And I mean, they found a cause to celebrate a new war to pursue, a new cause for war. It's actually been around a while, but they're really starting to pump up the rhetoric on it. And I knew this was coming. I just didn't know when. But now Gingrich kind of threw down the gauntlet there. And it's I think we're kind of in that period of the end of the Weimar Republic leading up to full-blown Nazi-style fascism coming in this country.
And I will say this on going out, and that is, and never, ever underestimate the power of the Olympics, which are coming back again. the pagan quadrennial games.
Yeah.
And the other thing is this. Tell me if I'm wrong, but whenever I see Gingrich open his mouth, I'm always thinking about being at a party and looking at someone saying, who invited him? What a douchebag.
I know you're fond of his wife's hairdo.
Just don't get cut on it. I mean, come on.
Oh my!
Stop.
And the woman has the most incredible blank stare. No wonder.
Well, we can give you another whole hour on why that happened. Hey, listen, you got to be an MK Ultra candidate to want to get under him in the bed.
I think you're right. Oh man, I mean, she looks like I don't know, a mannequin.
Right.
You know?
Here's a visual for you. Them making love. Thank you. All right, listen.
That's enough to scar you for life.
Well, I mean, unless your brain is blanched like hers is. Okay. Thanks for coming on.
Sure.
We don't have to do this anymore, do we?
Well, I actually had wanted to talk about one of the tools of fascism, assassination. Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Oh,
and we can show. I can start talking about how at the end of the Weimar Republic, that the right-wing Nazis started assassinating people, and very reminiscent of what's been happening in the United States starting in the 60s.
But all seriously, I mean, that's a great teaser for the next time around, and let's definitely do that then.
Sure.